The stars stretched endlessly across the black sky, glowing like scattered jewels. A small Terran Republic ship moved quietly between them, its silver frame shining in the light of distant suns. Inside the ship stood Patricia Vance, one of the Republic's youngest diplomats. She was tall, with calm brown eyes and steady hands that carried both hope and responsibility. Patricia's mission was clear: represent Earth at the gathering of the Veyari Coalition, a powerful group of alien civilizations. The Terran Republic was new to the galactic stage. For centuries, humans had stayed on their homeworld, too busy surviving their own wars and disasters. Now, with faster-than-light travel, they had stepped into the stars. Some alien nations welcomed humanity's courage and creativity, while others viewed Terrans as dangerous newcomers. Patricia's job was to prove that Earth could be trusted. Her ship approached the massive space station of the Veyari. The structure was breathtaking, a network of shining towers, glowing rings, and living gardens suspended in the void. Thousands of alien vessels moved in careful patterns, each following strict flight paths. The station itself looked like a floating city, alive with lights and movement. Patricia's aide, Lieutenant Ramos, stood beside her at the viewport. "It's bigger than I imagined," he whispered. Patricia smiled faintly. "Remember this moment, Ramos. Earth has never been closer to the heart of galactic politics." The docking process was smooth. Alien officials greeted Patricia and her small Terran team with polite but distant gestures. Their tall frames, covered in layers of colorful robes, gave them an air of elegance. Patricia noticed their eyes, some curious, some cold, all watching closely. Inside the coalition chambers, she felt the weight of history pressing down. The hall was enormous, filled with representatives from dozens of worlds. Some were insect-like, with shining carapaces, others reptilian with scaled skin, while others looked almost human but with strange patterns glowing across their foreheads. They spoke in soft tones, their voices echoing through the hall. Patricia took her seat at the Terran table. She knew Earth's delegation was small compared to the others. The Republic had no vast fleets, no ancient traditions among the stars. What they carried instead was determination, and the belief that humanity could adapt to anything. The session began with the coalition leader, a tall being called Saravak, whose translucent skin shimmered with colors that shifted like water. His voice was deep and calm. "Today we welcome the Terran Republic as observers. Humanity stands at the edge of joining the greater union of worlds. We hope their words bring wisdom." Patricia rose, her voice steady. "Honored Council, Earth seeks friendship, trade, and cooperation. We may be young among the stars, but we are not without strength. We have faced wars, disasters, and hardships, yet we endured. We learned. We grew. The Terran Republic does not come with demands, but with an open hand. We believe that survival is not only about strength of arms, but about trust and unity." Her speech carried across the chamber. Some delegates nodded with interest while others whispered to their neighbors. Patricia could feel both curiosity and doubt in the air. Then one alien delegate, a member of the sharp-voiced Dravaki, stood. "Fine words, Terran, but many speak of your kind as restless and reckless. Do you not conquer your own world before claiming peace among the stars?" The question cut through the air. Patricia paused for a heartbeat, then answered firmly. "Yes, we fought among ourselves, but we also learned the cost of conflict. That is why we stand here now, not to repeat mistakes, but to build something better." Her words carried conviction, and the chamber grew quiet. For a moment, Patricia thought she had made progress. Later, as the session ended, some delegates approached her with cautious interest. They asked about Earth's technologies, its art, its stories. Patricia answered openly, always careful to show respect. She knew every word could shape humanity's future. But as she left the chamber, she also noticed others keeping their distance, their eyes filled with suspicion. Not everyone was ready to welcome humans. Back on her ship, Patricia gathered her team. "Today was only the first step," she told them. "We gained attention but also doubt. We must be careful. Trust is fragile here. Lieutenant Ramos frowned. Do you think they'll give us a fair chance? Patricia's gaze hardened. They will or will make one, that is the Terran way. The stars outside seemed brighter as she spoke, as if they were listening. Humanity's path among the Sci. Stars would not be easy. Patricia knew setbacks would come, perhaps sooner than expected. But she also knew one truth that gave her strength. Humans had always risen after falling, and in this vast galaxy, that spirit might be the very thing that made them special. The next morning, Patricia returned to the council chambers of the Veyari. Coalition. The long hall was filled with voices, each delegate speaking in their own language, translated into the air by humming machines. The glow of lights above the chamber reflected on polished metal and glass. It was a place of power, and Patricia felt the weight of it as she walked to her seat. She had prepared through the night, reading reports, practicing her speech, and reviewing the history of the coalition. She wanted the Terran Republic to appear, careful and wise, not reckless. But even the strongest preparation could not control every moment. Saravak, the shimmering leader of the council, raised his long hand for silence. Today, we will continue our talks on trade and mutual defense. The Terran Republic may present its proposals. Patricia stood and walked to the center platform. Her voice was calm, but inside her chest her heart beat fast. Honored Council, she began. Earth wishes to share resources that may be of value. We offer our advancements in medicine and agricultural science. In exchange, we ask for fair trade and the opportunity to prove ourselves through cooperation. For a short time, her words seemed to reach the chamber. Some delegates leaned forward, listening carefully. She explained how Terran crops could grow in harsh conditions, how human medicine had saved countless lives, and how their ships could travel faster than most expected for a young spacefaring nation. But then, trouble began. A delegate from the Dravaki stood, his tall frame bent slightly forward, his sharp features glowing under the chamber lights. The Terran speaks of giving, he said, his voice cold, but her words hide ambition. We have studied humans. Their history is not one of peace but of conquest. How long before the Terran Republic turns its hand against its neighbors? The room filled with whispers. Patricia felt the eyes of dozens of species on her. She took a breath and answered, steady but firm. It is true that humans have fought among themselves, but those conflicts taught us the value of unity. We come here not as conquerors, but as partners. Another delegate, this one from the Zorani, tilted her scaled head. Partners, or rulers in disguise? Patricia realized she had spoken too, directly. The council valued patience and caution. Her words, though honest, sounded too bold. A ripple of doubt moved through the chamber. Some delegates folded their arms, others exchanged glances, and a few made quiet notes on their tablets. Saravak raised his hand again. Enough. The Terran proposal will be reviewed later. For now, the council will proceed with other matters. The discussion shifted away, but Patricia could feel the damage. Her attempt to show humanity's strength had been twisted into arrogance. When the session ended, her team walked with her through the long corridors of the station. Lieutenant Ramos looked frustrated. They twisted your words. That wasn't fair. Patricia sighed. Fairness is not guaranteed in politics. We are new here. Some fear us, some want us to fail. We must accept that and adapt. As they returned to the Terran embassy quarters, Patricia received troubling news. The first resource exchange between Earth and the Veyari, planned for the next day, had been postponed. The reason given was administrative delays, but Patricia knew it was because of the doubt planted in the council. Her team gathered around the conference table. The young officers looked discouraged. One of them, Ensign Hale, spoke quietly. If they keep delaying, the Republic will lose its chance. Other nations will think we are too weak. Patricia looked at each of them. She felt the same frustration, but she would not let it show. Listen to me. A setback is not the end. Earth has faced worse before. When storms destroyed our crops, we learned to grow new ones. When our cities were shaken by war, we rebuilt stronger. This is only another test." Her words gave some hope, but she knew hope alone was not enough. Later that night, she stood alone at the viewport, staring at the lights of the great station. The stars beyond seemed cold and distant. For the first time since arriving, she felt the heavy shadow of failure. Then, a soft voice broke her thoughts. It was Kalen, a Vayari aide who had been quietly friendly since her arrival. His tall, thin frame entered the room, his glowing eyes calm. "Ambassador Vance," he said, "you should know something. Not all delays are natural. There are those who wish for your republic to be excluded. Some whisper lies about Terrans, to create fear." Patricia turned to face him. "Do you know who?" Kalen shook his head slowly. "Not yet. But be careful. Words are powerful in this place, and someone uses them against you." Patricia thanked him, though her mind was already racing. Her setback was not only the result of her bold words. Someone in the shadows was working against humanity, spreading doubt and suspicion. She returned to her quarters and sat at her desk. Her reflection looked back at her in the glass. For a moment she allowed herself to feel the weight of disappointment. But then she straightened her shoulders. "A setback," she whispered to herself, "is only the beginning of a comeback." She began to plan. If someone wanted to silence the Terrans, she would uncover them. If trust had been damaged, she would rebuild it. Humanity had always risen after falling, and she would prove it once again. Outside the station, the stars continued to burn. Silent witnesses to the struggle of one young nation and to the determination of one human who refused to give up. The council chambers were quiet the next day, but Patricia could still feel the weight of failure hanging in the air. Her proposal had been delayed, her words had been twisted, and her team had lost confidence. Yet she refused to surrender. She had grown up on Earth during difficult times when food was scarce and people had to fight for every chance to survive. She knew what it meant to face obstacles. And she knew that the Terran Republic could not afford to retreat. Patricia started the morning by calling her team together. Around the table sat Lieutenant Ramos, Ensign Hale, and 2 other officers from Earth. Their faces showed tiredness and worry. "We cannot let yesterday decide our future," Patricia said firmly. "Someone is working against us. That means we need to be sharper, calmer, and more united. If they spread lies, we will answer with truth. If they set traps, we will find them before we step inside." Lieutenant Ramos leaned forward. "Do you think Kalen was right? That there's a hidden hand in all this?" Patricia nodded. "Yes, and we must find proof. Without proof, the council will believe their fears instead of our words." The others agreed, though uneasily. Investigating sabotage in the heart of the coalition was risky, but Patricia's resolve gave them strength. Later, Patricia walked through the vast station with Ramos at her side. The corridors were busy with delegates, merchants, and travelers from dozens of species. Voices echoed in many languages, and strange scents filled the air from alien foods. Patricia noticed how some turned their eyes away when they saw her Terran uniform. Suspicion was spreading. They reached a small library chamber where Kalen waited. The Vayari aide looked around carefully before speaking. "I have learned something. Documents about the Terran Republic's history were sent to several council members last night, but they were not accurate. The records were changed." Patricia frowned. "Changed how?" Kalen's eyes glowed faintly. "They exaggerated Terran wars, removed treaties, and painted your republic as always violent. It was done to create fear." Ramos clenched his fists. "Someone forged our history, that's low." Patricia placed a hand on his arm to calm him. "Do you know who sent the documents?" Kalen shook his head. "Not yet, but I heard whispers of a group within the Dravaki delegation. They fear Terran growth and want you excluded before you become too strong." Patricia felt anger rising, but she controlled it. Anger would only confirm the lies. "Thank you, Kalen. You risk much by telling us." The Vayari bowed his head slightly. Not all here wished to see new voices silenced. "Be careful, Patricia. Vance, you are watched." Back in her quarters, Patricia shared the news with her team. They discussed plans to counter the false information. Ensign Hale suggested writing an official reply, filled with real history and evidence of Terran progress. Patricia shook her head. If we answer directly, they will say we are only defending ourselves. We need more than words, we need to show who we are. Ramos asked, how? Patricia thought for a long moment. Then she said, we will act. If the Council sees Terrans, helping others, if they see us solving problems instead of causing them, they will doubt the lies. Actions will speak louder than speeches. Her team agreed, though they still looked nervous. That evening, Patricia walked alone through the gardens of the station. Tall crystal trees glowed with soft light, and streams of water flowed in quiet paths. It was a place for peace, where delegates came to rest. She needed the calm to think. As she walked, she overheard two alien delegates whispering nearby. She slowed her steps, listening. The Terrans are dangerous. Already they speak boldly, as if they deserve equal place. If we let them in, they will soon demand more. One voice hissed. Another replied, yes, better to push them away now, while they are weak. Patricia recognized their robes, the Dravaki. She kept walking, pretending not to hear. But inside, she felt her resolve harden. The whispers of conspiracy were real. The setback she had faced was part of a larger plan. When she returned to her quarters, Ramos asked how she was holding up. Patricia gave a small smile. I am fine. Setbacks are nothing new to us. Humanity has always been underestimated, but that is our strength. We surprise those who doubt us. Ramos nodded. So what's our next move? Patricia looked out the viewport at the endless stars. We investigate quietly, we gather proof, and when the time is right, we reveal the truth. Until then, we show the Council who we really are, not by arguing, but by standing firm and by helping where we can. The station hummed with activity as Patricia moved through the corridors with Lieutenant Ramos. Every hallway seemed to hold 1,000 eyes, watching, judging, calculating. The Vayari coalition was a place of order, but beneath the polished surfaces, secrets and schemes moved like shadows. Patricia paused near a side corridor. Kalen said the Dravaki are behind the forged documents. She whispered, we need proof. If we confront them without evidence, it will backfire. Ramos nodded. How do we get proof without drawing attention? Patricia's mind raced. They could not hack the Council's systems. That would be seen as sabotage. They could not confront delegates openly, but perhaps there were quiet ways to observe, to gather information. We will start small, she said. We watch, we listen, and we record anything unusual. Actions leave traces. Even careful lies have footprints. They began their search. In the archives, a place rarely visited by anyone except researchers and council aides. The room was vast, filled with tall shelves and glowing screens. The air smelled faintly of metals and ozone. Kalen had arranged access under the pretense of research support. Some records are restricted, he explained, but enough is visible to spot discrepancies. If the Dravaki tampered with anything, traces remain in older copies or in logs. Patricia moved between consoles and shelves, her eyes scanning for anything odd. Ramos worked alongside her, cross-checking data. Hours passed in silence, broken only by the soft hum of machines. Then, Patricia froze. A small file on the main terminal glowed with a warning. Unauthorized alteration detected. Ramos, look at this, she said. They opened the file together. The logs showed edits made overnight to Terran history records, deletions, exaggerations, subtle changes to make humans appear aggressive. The fingerprints in the system traced back to an access terminal used by a Dravaki aide. Ramos whistled softly. We have them. Proof. Patricia nodded. This is what we need. But we cannot confront them directly yet. We document everything, carefully. Then we will present it to the Council at the right moment. That evening, Patricia and her team moved cautiously through the station's gardens. The glow of crystal trees reflected on quiet streams. The soft lights gave an illusion of peace, but Patricia knew danger could be anywhere. "Do you think they know we are looking?" Ramos asked. Patricia shook her head. "Not yet. But we cannot assume they are unaware. We must be careful, move quietly, and act like any ordinary delegates or aides." They walked past groups of aliens speaking in hushed voices. Some glanced at the Terrans suspiciously, but none seemed to recognize the true purpose of their visit. Patricia made mental notes mapping the likely routes of Dravaki delegates who could have been involved. The next morning, Patricia returned to the council chamber with proof in her datapad. She did not present it immediately. Instead, she observed the council session, noting interactions, gestures, and the subtleties of alien politics. She realized that the Dravaki were subtle but aggressive. They whispered to others, spread doubts in private discussions, and even altered some messages sent between delegates. The scope of their sabotage was larger than she first thought. Patricia made a plan. If the council saw the Dravaki working against humanity openly, it would backfire on them. The key was patience and timing. She shared the plan with her team. "We continue our watch. We gather evidence, document every interaction. And when the council is ready for our report, we reveal everything. But we act carefully. This is not a race, it is a strategy." Ramos nodded. "We can do this. Terrans don't give up." Patricia smiled faintly. "Exactly. That is why we are still here, despite yesterday's setback. Humanity has a way of rising even when everyone doubts us." Later that day, a minor emergency occurred in the station's trade sector. A shipment of medical supplies from another world had been misrouted, causing tension among several delegates. Patricia saw an opportunity. She directed her team to help coordinate the shipment, using Terran systems to track and redirect the cargo efficiently. Within hours, the supplies reached their correct destinations. Delegates from multiple species expressed gratitude, noting the Terrans' quick thinking. Patricia kept a low profile, but quietly, she knew this action strengthened her position. The council would notice that Terrans were capable, helpful, and reliable. Actions were louder than words. By evening, the evidence of sabotage was neatly organized, stored in encrypted files ready to present. Patricia reviewed each document carefully. The forgeries, the altered logs, the whispers recorded by discreet observers, all formed a clear pattern of deliberate obstruction. She leaned back in her chair, exhaustion settling in. "It has been a long day," she murmured. Yet there was determination in her eyes. "We have the proof. Now we prepare to turn this setback into an advantage." Outside her window, the stars burned brightly, indifferent to the struggles of one small human delegation. But Patricia knew that humanity's spirit was different. Humans had always risen after falling. And soon, the council would see it too. The council chamber was quiet, more silent than Patricia had ever seen it. Every delegate seemed to sense that something important was about to happen. Patricia stood at the center platform, her datapad in hand, heart steady despite the tension in the air. Months of preparation, observation, and careful investigation had led to this moment. Lieutenant Ramos and the team stood behind her, ready to support, but she knew this was her responsibility. The Dravaki delegates, tall and sharp-eyed, watched her with suspicion, unaware that Patricia held proof of their sabotage. Saravak, the glowing council leader, raised his hand. "Ambassador Vance, you may present your findings." Patricia took a deep breath. "Honored Council, members of the Vayari Coalition, I come not to accuse, but to show truth. In the past weeks, the Terran Republic faced setbacks here. Words were twisted, records altered, and doubts spread about our intentions. We investigated quietly, carefully, and without bias. Today I present evidence of deliberate obstruction aimed to prevent humanity from participating in this council." She activated her datapad, projecting the files into the chamber. Logs of altered Terran history appeared first, followed by records tracing access back to the Dravaki aids terminal. Screens showed whispers and altered communications, proof that attempts were made to misrepresent Terran intentions. A murmur ran through the chamber. Some delegates leaned forward, curious. Others exchanged worried glances. Patricia continued, "We present these facts not to attack a species, but to clarify truth. Humanity comes here with open hands, seeking cooperation, trade, and mutual defense. We have no desire for dominance, only partnership." The Dravaki delegate who had opposed Patricia's words stepped forward, voice sharp. "This is manipulation. Terrans cannot interfere with our politics." Patricia held her ground. "We did not interfere. We observed, collected evidence, and presented facts. The truth speaks for itself." Saravak's colors shifted, signaling thought. "Evidence is strong. The Council will review these documents." Other delegates previously doubtful of Terrans began speaking in support. A Zorani representative stepped forward. "It seems the Terrans acted with integrity. They did not create chaos. They revealed it. This is commendable." Even the minor factions nodded. Patricia felt a spark of relief. Her careful work was paying off. Then a surprising moment occurred. The Dravaki aide implicated in the sabotage tried to speak, but Saravak's hand stopped him. "Enough. The Council will deliberate before judgment. Attempts to mislead the Coalition will not be ignored." Patricia stepped back, allowing the Council to take control. She could feel tension easing, a sense that the truth had shifted the balance. After the session, several delegates approached her personally. Some apologized for earlier doubts. Others expressed admiration for the Terran approach. Patricia answered each with calm dignity, emphasizing cooperation and trust. Back at the embassy quarters, Ramos clapped her shoulder. "That was brilliant. You turned a disaster into proof of Terran capability." Patricia smiled faintly. "We didn't turn it, we only revealed the truth. Humanity has always faced doubt. Every setback is a chance to show who we are. That is what makes us special." Ensign Hale looked inspired. "Do you think the Council will finally accept us?" Patricia's eyes shone with determination. "They will respect us because they now see that Terrans do not give up. Even when underestimated, even when opposed, we endure and rise. That is the Terran way." Over the next few days, the Council's attitude shifted noticeably. Terran proposals for resource sharing, scientific cooperation, and mutual defense were no longer delayed. Delegates sought Terran advice on technical problems, and some even invited the Terrans to minor joint missions. The small victories were meaningful. Every step forward strengthened humanity's reputation among the stars. Patricia often walked alone in the station gardens, reflecting on the journey. The glowing crystal trees and quiet streams reminded her of Earth's forests and rivers. She thought of the setbacks, the doubts, and the obstacles. And she smiled because she knew that persistence, courage, and truth had won the day.